of a global nuclear war breaking out. As winter comes across Europe, Putin will now exercise his blackmail over an energy-strapped Europe. It's brinkmanship of a terrible kind. Europe and the US will hit back. The explosion on the Nord Stream, the oil pipeline from Russia, followed by the explosion on the very critical Crimea bridge, are all hands but underhand acts of Russia and America, hitting critical infrastructure with a touch of deniability. But ladies and gentlemen, in war, as we know, things can move from seeking deniability to absolute brazenness before you realize it. And by bombing Kiev, which he has done today relentlessly, he's been bombing Kiev relentlessly since this morning. A very wounded Putin is signaling to the world a new and more dangerous determination to hit back. And he's not fooling around about nukes, viewers. Ukraine and its American sponsors should stop giving Putin an opportunity to hit back and use nuclear weapons. They should stop giving him that excuse to use nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons are nuclear weapons, tactical or not. Biden has said it himself that Putin is not fooling around with nuclear weapons, that he can use them. And he has even said that even a small tactical nuclear strike by any side will lead, you can take it as a certainty, to multi-pronged global escalation, which means a global nuclear war, which nobody can and nobody will control. The world will then go back 1,000,000 years. Viewers, this has to stop now. Ukraine is nobody's war. Nobody's war. Putin should be allowed to deal with his own problems. And I would even say that if he wants the face saver of an annexation, he should be allowed one. And then the world must move on. Putin, wounded and desperate to show victory, will drag the whole world, including all of us, to a nuclear conflict. But equally, Biden must now put the brakes on his war industry. A nuclear war is not a theoretical possibility that only some experts in geopolitics are doing long-term risk analysis about. A nuclear war is a very real short-term possibility. And that is why, given its growing significance, that is why it is my first debate tonight. Viewers, in our own way, let's join the chorus with the hashtag No to Nukes. Debate number 2 tonight. The niche comment of Kejriwal's main man in Gujarat is a talking point, viewers. And debate number 3, communal clashes in Kolkata. What is the Mamata government doing? What is the police doing? Is it doing anything at all? Ladies and gentlemen, that's debate number 3. And here are the headlines this Monday evening on the Debate Tonight. Russia launches an unprecedented large-scale missile attack on Kiev. Over 70 missiles fired. Putin is threatening tougher response. What is next in the Russia-Ukraine war?
सी का मतलब है क्लीन। जिस तरीके से बीजेपी के नेता केंद्र में बैठे हुए लोग जनता की जेबों को क्लीन कर रहे हैं, उसको सी बोलते हैं ना, क्लीन कर।
After hurling abuse of the Prime Minister, the AAP leader attempts a poor cover-up. BJP stages massive protest over the violent clashes in Kolkata, alleges conspiracy to disrupt Hindu festival. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm really sorry about the mix-up in the visuals we ran over the headlines there. We'll repeat them properly later. To start with tonight, when the war in Ukraine broke out, we were the only channel to show you the true scale of devastation, the attacks, and the troop movement. Now, after months of what seemed like a lull in the degree of attacks, there has been, and it's been building up over the last few days, but a really major escalation. Ukraine, including the capital city of Kiev, have been targeted. The devastation is spine-chilling. The visuals are heart-wrenching. And Russian President Putin is saying that this is his first response to Ukraine's act of terrorism. So is it a sign that the war has begun all over again? Viewers, let's debate.
Ukraine woke up to multiple rockets being directed at its capital city, Kiev. The bridge of glass in the very heart of Kiev was targeted. The historic old town. Several government offices, museums, playgrounds for little kids. Nothing was spared.
Ukraine has now made it abundantly clear that there is no question of sitting down on the negotiation table because they are now calling Russia a terrorist state.
Українці, українки, ранок важкий, маємо справу з терористами, десятки ракет, іранські шахіди. У них дві мішені – енергооб'єкти по всій нашій державі. Київщина і Хмельниччина, Львів і Дніпро, Вінниця, Франківщина, Запоріжжя, Сумщина, Харківщина, Житомирщина, Кіровоградщина, південь держави. Вони прагнуть паніки і хаосу, хочуть знищити нашу енергосистему. Вони безнадійні. Друга мішень – це люди. Спеціально обрали такий час і такі цілі, щоб завдати якнайбільше шкоди. Але
2 days ago, Russian missiles targeted civilians in Zaporizhia. The attacks come days after a truck bomb hit the only bridge linking Russia with Crimea.
Right here behind me is the bridge just past these grain silos. We're not too close, but the situation is right away Russia got traffic going again on the bridge. It's going on in Kiev. There's many images coming out of Kiev of horrible things happening. And Russia told Ukraine that if they would continue the attacks on the 4 areas that were taken control of by Russia and also including Crimea, that it would be like an attack on Russia.
Киевский режим своими действиями фактически поставил себя на одну доску с международными террористическими формированиями, с самыми одиозными группировками. Оставлять без ответа преступления подобного рода уже просто невозможно. Сегодня утром по предложению Министерства обороны и по плану Генерального штаба России нанесен массированный удар высокоточным оружием большой дальности воздушного, морского и наземного базирования по объектам энергетики, военного управления и связи Украины.
Amid the constant missile attacks, ordinary Ukrainians remain resolute.
Russia maintains this is in retaliation to the attack carried out on the Crimean bridge. Ukraine maintains that they have no role to play. What could be the way forward? This is something that is going to figure in the National Security Council meeting that is going to take place, chaired by Russian President Vladimir Putin. A final confirmation now coming in that an urgent G7 meeting will take place in which President Zelensky will be participating. But the bigger question here is that Ukraine for several months put together have been seeking for help from the European countries as well as United States.
Could the escalation now mean another round of a war the world was hoping would end? Let's debate.
we are looking at this again because it's a very serious and dangerous possibility. And we have with us today from one side, the Ukrainian side, we have Vadim Trukhan. He's former diplomat, head of the NGO European Movement Ukraine. Valentin Yakushik, professor of the Department of International Relations and Social Sciences from Kiev. Bohdan Nahalev is chief editor of the Kiev Post. He's joining us from Kiev. Volodymyr Solovian is an analyst in the New Geopolitics Research Network. He's live from Kiev. Nikita Menkovich, director of the Eurasian Analytical Club, live from Moscow. Also from Moscow, John Mark Dugan. He's an expert in geopolitics, military strategy, and a former US Marine. Alexander Bovdunov, geopolitical analyst, live from Moscow. And from New York, I have Michael Tracy. He's a journalist. So we have two sides. It's 4 versus 4. We'll give everyone a turn to speak. The point is, Mr. Menkovich, I want to start with you. These strikes, missile strikes that you have carried out in Kiev are without the slightest proof that the explosion on the bridge was Ukrainian. And if you have proof, and if you believe in international law, that proof should have been presented before an appropriate body. You have carried out unilateral action, and therefore what you've decided to is once again begin the business of attacking civilians. The point being made is, Nikita, the point being made is, if you cannot win the war militarily, why are you targeting civilians?
First of all, I'd like to say that the reason of this attack wasn't not only the terrorist attack against the bridge in Crimea. The reason is that so-called Ukrainian army, terrorist group, making attacks against a civilian population. You say 100 words about this attack in Kiev, but did you say a word about hundreds of people killed by Ukrainian army in Zaporozhye, in Kharkov? Did you tell your auditory about the mass grave in Kupiansk? That is the reason we are fighting.
But why? Why you fight on the front? You can fight on the front. You can fight on the front.
Stop interrupting me.
No, you can fight on the front. But why are you bombing civilians? My point is, I understand that you're in a military conflict. But 1 second, just 1 minute, Nikita, listen. You look at the visuals of what has come from Kiev today, and I have Bohdan on the other side. There are cars in the prominent city square. There are blind craters raging with fire in the midst of a city near a playground. Do you care anymore how many children you will kill? Do you care anymore how many women you will kill? Or are you beyond that right now? And if you want to talk about damaging civilian infrastructure, then my point is, can you kindly tell me who blasted the Nord Stream?
Please.
Who blasted the Nord Stream which carries your oil? You want to deny oil. If you want to deny oil to Europe, you can deny it officially. Was it an act of self-sabotage? You talk about the Crimean. 1 minute. You talk about the. Allow me. You talk about the Crimean bridge blast. But can I tell you, preceding that, how was it possible to have a blast on the Nord Stream? You want to make things difficult for Europe? You can do it officially. You can deny. You can stop all oil supplies. But why do you want to fight a war by stealth? Are you incapable of fighting a war openly? And what is this nuclear threat all the time? What is this nuclear threat? You are threatening you are not threatening Ukraine, you are threatening the whole world.
Every time I'm trying to tell your auditory the truth. The truth is that even Mr. Zelensky, the so-called Ukrainian president, just told in your ear that the only target of Russian attacks was energy objects. No playground, no other places. these
Rubbish.
points was
Rubbish. Liar, liar, pants on fire, liar, liar, liar.
Okay, 2 versus 2. 1 second. Nikita, Mr. Nahalio is responding. Mr. Nahalio is
Right.
responding. Let's get Mr. Nahalio's response and then get John Mark Dugan. We'll have one speak at a time, please. We'll have one speak at a time, please. Thank you. Thank you. One at a time, please. Thank you.
Propagandist.
Mr.
Okay,
Arnab.
Russian propaganda.
Let's have one speak at a time, please. Mr.
I'm
Nikita,
speaking about
let have
the
one
hundreds of
person
people
speak at a time, please.
killed by
I
Ukraine.
started with you. Let's hear them on the other side, and then we'll keep moving on. We'll keep moving on. We'll keep moving on after that. We'll give everybody their turn. But 1 second, Mr. Nahalo, Mr. Nahalo, I have a question for you. I have a question for you, Mr. Nahalo. I have a question for you, Bodan. I have a question for you, Bodan. Please take my question. Please take my question.
Mr. Arnab, it's unacceptable. Now I'm talking about crimes committed by Ukrainian army. Let me finish,
Moscow,
and
shut
later,
up.
Mr. Bogdan and other people.
Okay, so Nikita, may I request you, Nikita, since two people can't be heard together, Bodan, 1 minute, I request your patience. Nikita, I'll come back to you a second time.
Because
I'll come back to you a second time. Nikita, I'll come back to you a second time. I promise you I will. I will come back to you a second time. But I now...
energy objects.
Okay, Nikita, now,
You
now,
know that no civilian goals were attacked in Kyiv.
Rubbish.
Even Zelensky told that early energy objects was the target. In your air, you didn't translate him, but he told it.
Okay, now...
Nobody.
That's your official line. Nikita, now please.
We are
Thank
not
you.
terrorist organization
Yeah,
as
Nikita.
Ukrainian army or NATO.
Yeah, but Nikita, may I please?
That's why
Thank you,
we
Nikita. I've thanked you. So you need to conclude right now and get the others in. 1 sec. Bodan, listen, my question to you is straight, and I request you, however, polarize the debate. We let both sides be heard. Bodan is on the left, and I'm saying John Mark Dugan is on the right. We listen to each other and then respond. Bodan, I think it is very childish and dangerously childish when after the attack on the bridge in which 3 people were killed, there are multiple videos from Ukraine, including some from your officials, mocking the attack with "Happy Birthday, Mr. President." There are postal stamps. There are silly comments by Mr. Zelensky, almost taking ownership for the attack. I don't think that is diplomatic. I don't think that is how statesmen should be responding. That is a immediate escalation. In fact, if I may remind you that on the 6th of October, Zelensky appealed to NATO to carry out preemptive strikes so that they know what will happen to them and not vice versa. So my question to you, Bodan, if Ukraine is incapable of fighting the war itself, is it now resorting to acts of terrorism? What is its hand in what happened on the Crimea bridge? Bodan.
Arnab, I think you're incapable of presenting the facts and the narrative. You know, Crimea is part of Ukraine. It's annexed temporarily, and the bridge links Russia with an occupied part of Ukraine, and they are moving through that bridge their military supplies to wage the war against Ukraine. Look, what we saw today in Kyiv was not the worst. Zaporizhia, Kharkiv, Mariupol, even Lviv today are being hammered by Russian terrorists. This war has been going on for 8 months. It's not about the bridge. The Ukrainians were very restrained. They hit the bridge yesterday to celebrate Putin's birthday. Yes, Ukraine has every right to let this killer terrorist, he's not a diplomat. Russians aren't speaking to us in the language of diplomacy, Arnab. And unfortunately, India sits on the fence and pretends it's being diplomatic. India is not aligned. It's siding with Russia. And we don't want this, Arnab. And you have no authority to tell us that we're out of line. India is out of line for condoning Russia's terrorist behavior by its abstentions in the General Assembly. Today, the General Assembly is meeting. They will vote again on Wednesday. Will India sit on the fence again after these terrible crimes? 8 months of crimes. We and you
answer me, Bodan.
7 months ago.
Bodan, let me tell you. India will do what is in its interest. But I want to ask you. I want to ask you. Does Ukraine have a role in the? Does Ukraine? Can you really say that Ukraine does not have a role in the blast on the bridge? Was this not an act of sabotage in which your government was involved?
Wake up and be a
No. 1 second. Stop telling me to wake up. I'm asking you, was your country not involved in the blast on the bridge? No. On whose instructions have you done that? On whose instructions have you done that, Bodan? Why don't you answer that? Why don't you answer that? You stop listening beyond a point.
Today, Arnab, you're sitting in your studio comfortably. I saw people killed in Kiev today. You're sitting comfortably, pontificating.
That's not going to help. This is your war. This is your war, but unfortunately, through some of your actions, you are dragging the world towards a nuclear war. The world doesn't need Bodan. You need to understand when you cross the line, you have our sympathy, you have our empathy, but you are also playing with the lives of your own people, and you are also dragging the whole world into a nuclear war. You are. You can't deny. The fact is, Bodan, you can attack me as much as you want. You can't deny. You can't deny, Bodan. You can't deny a thing. You can't deny. You can't deny your role. Was that a war crime? Who blasted the bridge? I run the pictures on the screen. John Mark Dougan is on the debate. Who blasted the bridge? Who attacked the civilian infrastructure? Who said happy birthday, Mr. President? Who escalated it? If you think Putin is dangerous, then why is there a threat of an attack on Putin's life? Why are these kind of comments being made on a regular basis? We are moving as a world towards a nuclear Armageddon, and are we going to sit and watch this? I'd like John to come into the debate, ladies and gentlemen. John and Vadim Trukin are on the debate.
I would love to speak, but this guy's very rude, and I'm not going to try to speak over him because he's an idiot. So if you can mute him.
You are the traitor who's there with Russia.
Okay, now I just want one person to speak at a time. And John, you make your point. After that, Vadim responds, despite all disagreement. I hope we all understand the gravity of the situation. We've picked up the subject after many days on this channel because we believe there's a dangerous threat of a nuclear escalation. You're in Moscow. What do you think?
There is. And, look, you mentioned the Nord Stream pipeline before. Every evidence points away from Russia in carrying out the Nord Stream pipeline bombing, okay? The only people that had to benefit from that was the United States to prevent German citizens from uprising and demanding their government to go back to make better relations with Russia, okay? So that's an attack on civilian infrastructure. This bridge was an attack on civilian infrastructure, okay? And you asked before about how come Russia didn't take this to the international community, but Russia has been taking all sorts of things to the international community, and it is always ignored. He's made so many different appeals to the international community. In fact, he appealed for the pipeline to be investigated impartially with them and Germany. But guess what? They have been left out. Both those countries have been left out of that investigation. So that is not even an issue here, okay? It's not a possibility. Russia is playing its only card that it has, and it's tit for tat on civilian infrastructure. And I'm sorry, but Russia has tried sitting with Ukraine at the negotiating table back in Turkey, if you remember. But the United States has been pressuring Ukraine to keep up this war, pumping weapons into it. And that's not going to help anything. Kiev is seeing now what the citizens of the Donbass have been enduring for the last 8 years, but nobody's cared. And I got to ask why.
No, question is, what you're saying, I get your point. To Vadim, what he's saying is that because Putin annexed these 4 regions in a very public display of political power and intention, the West needed to hit back. And hence it has carried out not one, he says, but 2 acts of terrorism. 1, the bombing on the pipeline. 2, the bombing on the bridge. And to be fair, Vadim, the attacks on Kiev and civilian areas have not been going on. It is only after these two attacks, these two terrorist attacks, which I believe they're acts of terrorism, has Putin started bombing Kiev again. So, Vadim, you know, America wants an escalation, Ukraine wants an escalation, but at whose cost? At whose cost?
Arnab, thank you very much for raising this very important and sensitive question. Thank you very much. First of all, what I would like to say, on the meeting which was held on the 16th of September, Prime Minister of India, Mr. Narendra Modi, asked Mr. Putin, President of Nazi Russian Federation, to stop the war. And he said that this is not time of war, this is time of diplomacy and democracy. As far as I understand, Putin didn't hear what was advised by Mr. Prime Minister of India, and he decided to escalate this war and to achieve his goal. And this is my second point. Second point is the following. Bridge has nothing to do with reality. Putin wants to destroy Ukraine and to kill as many Ukrainians as possible. Doesn't matter whether there is any attack for Crimean bridge or any other military objects in Russia. They will do all their best to destroy Ukraine. And Ukrainians just want to survive. And third point, you know, Russians cannot do anything with Ukrainian army. They are losing. They are losing in all directions, in the eastern part of Ukraine, in south part of Ukraine, and so on. And they made a decision to hit civilian infrastructure, to hit energy infrastructure in order to seek panic, chaos in Ukraine. That's why they are doing. And last but not least, listen, you are so surprised that today Kiev was under attack. But in other regions of Ukraine under attack 229 days. 229 days. 87,000 people were killed in Mariupol.
Yeah, but this has gone on too long, and now it's getting perilously close to a nuclear war. What is your international responsibility? Sorry? I can also turn around and ask you, what is your international responsibility? Can you, as a country, face the fallout of a nuclear war? Nobody in the world can. We have seen 77 years ago what happens when a nuclear bomb is dropped. Today there are over 13,000 nuclear warheads in the world. Almost half of them are with Russia.
Okay.
Over half of them, I repeat. No, 1 minute. See, 1 minute. We cannot lose our sense of rationality, Vadim, over what's going on. You have a problem with Putin. A lot of people have a problem with Putin. I have problems with Putin. Many people have problems with Putin. But at the end of the day, Putin is sitting with half the world's nuclear weapons. Valentin Yakushik is there. We're dealing with a very serious situation. So it's not an ordinary. No, 1 second. We've seen.
Arnab, this is a very important question. I have to respond. Very straight answer. Just imagine the situation. India, as a country, is attacked by Pakistan. And Pakistan is threatening India to use nuclear weapons. What? Indian army, Indian society will give up its country to Pakistan?
Well, let me tell you one thing. Let me give you a clear answer. Let me give you a clear answer. Let me give you a clear answer there.
Very clear.
Oh, no, 1 second, Vadim, can I understand you.
If we will
Vadim.
stop, then Ukraine will not exist.
Vadim.
This is not our choice.
Vadim, please listen to me. Please listen to me, Vadim. Vadim, I have an answer for you, my friend. You're not listening to me.
Very simple.
Nobody's listening to me tonight. Vadim, you listen to me. You asked me a question.
You don't want to listen to my
No, I'm listening to you, but I have an answer for you. But see, okay, there are two things here. Two things. First of all, every country has a different response and a different history. For your information, Vadim, and Valentin will agree, Valentin understands India very well. India has been a victim of Pakistani terrorism. Valentin and Vadim can both be on air, as so can Alexander and Michael. India has been a victim of Pakistani terrorism for decades. Decades. You know, but the fact of the matter is we have dealt with them through a mix of surgical strikes and other ways we've dealt with them, right? But at the end of the day, India is not a country which every second day wakes up in the morning and whose leader threatens the use of nuclear weapons. But that is not the case with Putin and Russia. Russia wakes up every morning. Am I wrong with Valentin? Every morning Russia wakes up and threatens the world with the use of nuclear weapons and says, we are serious. Am I wrong? Am I wrong, Alexander? Is that not the case?
Yes.
Is that not the case?
These so-called threats of using nuclear weapons, especially tactical nuclear weapons, are imagined by Western politicians and journalists. If you clearly citate, if you take clear quotes of Mr. Putin or Medvedev or so on, you will never see the proper words of tactical nuclear weapons. Moreover, some days ago, Mr. Biden said that Mr. Putin, he said about not only nuclear but chemical and bacteriological weapons. But I ask, find real quote where Mr. Putin says that we can use in Ukraine chemical or bacteriological weapons. It's all imagined. All gestures related to nuclear weapons are related to strategical nuclear weapons, and it's presented for Western leaders to not involve more in this conflict.
No, but you've been threatening nuclear war. Am I not, Alexander? Alexander, may I? Alexander, Alexander,
not Ukrainian.
Alexander, please. May I? May I ask you? Michael is here from New York.
Yes.
On many issues, he supports Russia. I ask you, Michael, let's take the discussion forward. Has Putin not been constantly escalating the conflict? Has he not been saying we will continue to respond more harshly? Is he not threatening nuclear war every second day now, especially of late? You know, he has said that the US has set a precedent just this September. Is this not, what is this a lead up for? Can Putin actually do that now? We are getting very worried. If you see his statements, he seems to be perilously close to the use of a tactical nuclear weapon. Are all the analysts wrong, Michael?
First of all, I've never expressed support for Russia, so I just wanted to correct that. But I do want to speak to the situation from the standpoint of U.S. policy, which is what I'm most familiar with. And from the standpoint of U.S. policy, U.S. government policy, the sheer lunacy of this situation is best demonstrated simply by laying out a couple of key facts over the past week or so. Number one, Joe Biden, the president, publicly made a statement that is one of the most shocking statements ever uttered publicly by a U.S. president, which is that he warned effectively that the United States and the world is on the precipice of what Biden called nuclear Armageddon. That's what Joe Biden said publicly last Thursday.
Yes, he did.
And he almost makes it seem like the U.S. is a passive bystander to this problem, when in reality, the U.S. is the chief sponsor and subsidizer of the Ukraine war effort, and not just subsidizing it with tens of billions of dollars, which it is, and which Congress just passed another $12 billion for in the past week, but also operationally coordinating the war effort. I think your viewers ought to know, as should many Americans, frankly, who do not know this either. But there has been a massive campaign of deception underway as to the actual nature of the U.S. war effort. Joe Biden was reported just last week to have signed what's called a presidential covert action finding, which authorized the secret deployment of boots on the ground, U.S. military operations inside Ukraine. So not just provision of aid, not just support in some tangential way, but actual boots on the ground military deployment in Ukraine that's been covered up since the outset of this war. So on top of that, and I'll be quick, just let me finish this, please. It's very important. Last week, the U.S. intelligence agencies accused Ukraine, by way of the New York Times, which is their chief organ for doing this, of committing an assassination terror bombing in Moscow or outside of Moscow last August, right? That's the U.S. intelligence service is accusing the Ukraine government of doing this. That was an act which was denied fervently by Ukraine government officials in August when it occurred, because as one top Ukraine official said, if Ukraine were to have conducted that act, that assassination car bombing, that would make Ukraine a terrorist state. Now the U.S. intelligence agencies are accusing Ukraine of doing exactly that. Not me accusing them of doing it. U.S. intelligence agencies accusing them
What's
of doing
the end game?
And then
for something like this, there's got to be an end game.
What is a terror bombing that took place on a bridge in Crimea, killed civilians, and also reported in the New York Times. Again, no speculation from me needed. Read the New York Times. They're reporting that it's been corroborated that that truck bombing was orchestrated by the Ukraine government, and it has no apparent bearing on military logistics of the Russian army, but rather it was intended apparently to send a signal, which is the kind of thing that one associates with ISIS or Al-Qaeda. And this is what the U.S. taxpayer is funding to the tune of tens of billions of dollars.
That I completely agree
so
with
that
you.
should be made known to the public in such terms.
I like your analysis, very lucid.
Arnab,
I agree with you.
This is not analysis. This is lie. This is not truth. This is not truth. This gentleman is liar.
It's 100%
true. I say it to all those people who are watching and listening to us.
Vadim, listen to me. Vadim, listen to me. Vadim, listen to me. Listen to me, Vadim. Listen to me. Can I come in, Michael and Vadim? Michael and Vadim, can I? Vadim, 1 minute, please. Vadim, 1 minute, 1 minute to you, please. 1 minute to you, please, to the plain eye. I want to make an observation here, please. Allow me, Vadim. Allow me, Vadim. Vadim, don't let your emotions get the better of you. I want to say something to you, and I hope you give me I hope you have an open mind. Valentin, I want to show the pictures of what happened on the bridge, and in case our viewers don't know it, let us see the pictures. Viewers, can I just run the unedited visuals of what happened on the bridge? There's that long shot where you're actually seeing this happen. You can see the bridge actually has a climb to it. There's an incline, and there is apparently a truck. You're seeing it there, and when the truck starts going up the bridge, it explodes. Now, there are two views to this. A, what kind of explosives must have been on that truck? B, was it a suicide bombing? Was it an act of sabotage? C, or were the bombs placed in such a manner under the bridge to damage the bridge structurally? Whatever it is, and I don't know what you're showing me on the screen, but I want to say this to you, Nikita. I know you're showing me something on the screen. I can tell you with certainty, Valentin, that this is not a random terrorist act. You compared it to ISIS, in its nature it is. But it's a very, very organized act of terrorism. If states begin to carry out, Valentin, acts of terrorism, if states begin to carry out acts of terrorism, it is an unacceptable level of escalation.
Arnab, the New York Times reported that the Ukraine government orchestrated the attack.
I don't believe the New York Times anyway, anytime. But I'd still say this to you. I still say this to you. This is an act of terrorism towards what? Valentin, at some point the people of Ukraine must also stop and see that they are being used as cannon fodder. Ukrainians are being used as cannon fodder beyond a point.
During such type of a war, using sabotage by special operations forces, it's a normal practice in many armies. Americans were using that in Yugoslavia and Iraq, elsewhere. So Ukrainian special forces, I'm sure they did this successful from organizational point of view operation. But from strategic point of view, it was provoking Russian leadership to use these kind of attacks, which they do today. For them, it's a pretext to go to a new stage of war, to a new type of war, total war.
For whom you said? For whom total war?
For Russia.
Yeah, but then why,
Russian
if that is the case, 1 second, if that is the case, Valentin, and you think the Russians are so bad and so vicious and so terrible, they want to go to total war, why are you giving them an opportunity by carrying out this bombing on the bridge?
So I think in Ukrainian military and in other authorities, there are some people who do not care about these delicate issues.
That is the point. I agree with you.
Yeah, but what I would like to say.
But why don't you say that to Bohdan, who freaks out every time I say something like that to him? He'll call you an enemy of the state. He'll call you a fascist, a Nazi. Your friend Bohdan sitting in Kiev, if you say that to him, you know, you lose all sense of reason out there. What before you come in, Bohdan?
We are different. Some are hawks, some are doves. So let me say more. The Russian leadership now is in a very difficult situation. It wants to find an exit strategy. That is why it starts threatening.
But then give them an exit strategy and let the world be saved a nuclear war.
Yeah, most probably they will not go into this. You know, American generals several times in war in Korea in the 50s, and then in the war in Vietnam were threatening with nuclear arms when they were in very difficult situation.
But it's a different situation, Valentin.
So, yeah.
Valentin,
So
one point,
now-
Valentin, one point, just 1 point. Sorry to interrupt. I agree with Michael. I was shocked when I heard Biden. I mean, an American president who talks like that, who says that even a slight use of tactical weapons will drive the world into an Armageddon, that there's going to be a global nuclear war. And then you have these statements that are coming out from MIT professors, and now Elon Musk thinks that he is the world's biggest statesman looking for ways to stop nuclear war. This constant referencing of nuclear war itself is a bit of a dare, I think, but I want to get how Nikita looks at it. Nikita, I feel this constant referencing of nuclear war, you know, constant references to, is almost like a dare to a person like Putin. It will be a dare to him, and he may accept the dare, and Biden accepts that Putin is not fooling around with nuclear weapons. So we are concerned. Nikita?
There is no threat of the nuclear war from Russia.
How do we know?
The only threats was
Volodymyr.
put at the public face by Mr. Biden, American president.
No, but
Russia
you're all saying
doesn't want to start this war.
No, nobody wants to start.
Russia even didn't want to start the war in
Just on
Ukraine.
Volodymyr.
It was started by United States. And please, I'd like to add, please, let me finish what I'm telling you. When we're speaking about so-called nuclear threat, is just imagination. But when now we're speaking about a real threat, I showed you a video produced by Ukraine National Police.
Okay, so here's...
It is mass killing in Kupiansk.
Just 1 minute, Bogdan.
These Ukrainian terrorists and butchers throwing dead bodies in a big grave. You like watching it. Just sitting in your studio and watching Ukrainian butchers killing people.
President of Hiroshima
No,
if
we
there's
don't
no
like
threat
it.
whatsoever
And we're
from
going
Russia
to
Yeah,
stop
but
that.
you see...
Ukrainian terrorists, butchers, and those NATO masters are going to be stopped.
Nikita,
Arnab,
the way...
why did Putin
just 1
invoke
minute,
the
Michael.
president of Hiroshima if there's no threat emanating from Russia on this?
No,
It makes sense.
Michael, just 1 minute, Michael. I want to get in Volodymyr. So, Volodymyr has not spoken, so Bogdan, just bear with me for a minute. I want to go to Volodymyr. Volodymyr, you know, my question to you is this, that obviously the way we will look at it from, say, you know, where we are in India will be very different from the way you will look at it in Ukraine or in Russia. But is anybody in Ukraine or Russia, especially in Ukraine, taking a bird's eye view of the long-term consequences of what's going on? This is not, is there a sense in Ukraine? My question to you is that this is not about Ukraine alone, it's about the entire world. And when the American president says the very real possibility of an all-out nuclear war, very real possibility, then do Ukrainians and Russians also think that at one point they have a global responsibility to step out of this madness? Mr. Solovian.
Thanks for having me. I have to say that, of course, there are different dimensions of this war, a local one and global. But I have to say that we Ukrainians do not have any other options than to fight for our freedom, independence, because Russia pretends to deny our identity. It is providing, occupying our territories, and there is no space to negotiate with them. The only chance to survive for us is to defend ourselves and destroy Russian army on Ukrainian soil. We don't pretend any Russian territory, but only to restore our territorial integrity. That is one point. And another one is, I think that you quite overestimate the possibility of nuclear scenario in this war, because Russia will not break a non-proliferation regime until it will understand that.
How do you know that? How do you know that? Let me give you a different possibility, Volodymyr. You're an expert.
Yes, I will just try to bring some points about that. At first, Putin relies and bets on mobilization that he proclaimed just a week ago. And the mobs in big amounts, so tens of thousands, will come to the front line just in a month or two.
No, I don't know. I don't know.
Russia will try to advance in
I would like to know
means.
from you. I would like to know from you how you're so sure, because I'm not. You are saying to me tonight, don't believe Putin, who's threatening nuclear war every day. Don't believe Biden. Believe me. I want to know why I should believe you. I know that Russia will be outnumbered with NATO's European troops. I know that NATO has a lot of warships. I know that Russia cannot handle a war when NATO has the edge in terms of nuclear stock, but they could carry out a tactical nuclear strike. I wonder why you are playing on that brinkmanship. Are Ukrainians not worried about a tactical nuclear strike by the Russians? You think that's not a possibility?
We are worried, of course, but I'd like to.
Then are you willing to risk it?
No, not obviously, but it is not in our responsibility.
That's the point. Nobody takes responsibility. John, that's the point. Nobody. Wait, one minute. Bodan, 1 minute. Bodan, 1 minute. Nobody takes responsibility. Note that. Nobody, John, is taking responsibility for what happens when things go out of hand.
Okay.
Just lie to Russia about that. Ukraine abandoned its own atomic weapon.
No, John and Bodan. John first, then Bodan. Bodan, let John speak, and then you can come in 100%. John.
Look, I don't know why. I don't know why, but America is pushing and pushing and pushing. It almost seems like the American masters of Ukraine want a nuclear war, and I can't understand it. Putin has not threatened previously doing nuclear war. No, he didn't. If you listen to what he said, if you threaten us with nuclear, you know what? This guy, he's the most disrespectful idiot I've ever seen in my life. Can you not keep those
idiots are the traitors like you. Solovyov's children. Solovyov. Yeah.
Bodan, please. Hey, Bodan, I told you that you would get your turn after John speaks. Please don't do that. Let him speak. Let him speak, and you can respond to him after that. It's only proper. I'm requesting you. It's only proper.
You promised me, and you're not.
Yes, I'm promising you, but after him, please, if you allow me, I'm the anchor of the program, and after he speaks, I shall come to you, Bodan. Please, I request you. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's very difficult anyway. Yes.
Yeah, it's very sad that his position is so weak that he has to engage in personal attacks, and this is his motive. And but like I was saying, it almost seems like the United States is trying to push for a nuclear escalation, and I can't understand why. You there?
Yes, Bodan. Yeah. I'm just waiting for him to respond.
Okay, may I speak now? May I speak? Yeah. Look, I think it's very important that Indian viewers know that every day on Russian state TV, Russian propagandists like Solovyov and half a dozen others have been threatening the use of nuclear weapons. They have conditioned the Russian nation to think that they can just hurl a missile at London or Washington, and they even say how many seconds. Yes, Putin hasn't used the term himself, but every day on Russian TV, and Nikita knows this very well, they are talking about this. Secondly, about Americans. Listen, my friend, Russia has invaded Ukraine. America and NATO countries and Europe are supporting Ukraine. Ukraine wants them to support them. America is not doing something against Ukraine's will. We want to be part of the West. We want to be part of NATO. We want to be part of the EU. We don't want to be in autocratic Eurasia. Let the Russians stew in their own marshes and their Tsars and their, Ivan the Terribles and, Putin the destroyers. That's their business. We don't want to be part of that civilization.
Viewers, this is like deja vu for me. This is like deja vu for me. It's like going 200 days back. The only point I want to make at the end is, are we willing to put the world under an existential risk? What is going to be the generational damage of even a short-term nuclear war? Are we sure that a nuclear war today will be the kind that we saw 77 years back, or are we all willing to take this madness to a point, ladies and gentlemen, I hate to use the words, to a point of no return? Food for thought. When I come back on the other side, why there's a self-destructive streak in the kind of language the Aam Aadmi Party leaders are using against Narendra Modi, and why it's going to hit Kejriwal back in a few minutes.
They are a whole new breed. One is a hybrid by nature, a silent predator. The other is raring for an adventure, a fierce hunter. The new breed rises above all others. A new breed of SUVs, the advanced Grand Vitara, rule every road.
आग को फैलने से रोकना मुश्किल है पर नामुमकिन नहीं। अब फायरवॉल टेक्नोलॉजी के साथ सेंचुरी प्लाई क्लब प्राइम आग से बचाए।
Enroll in any of REVA's wide range of courses designed to take on an evolving education and an expanding future. REVA University.
आग को फैलने से रोकना मुश्किल है पर नामुमकिन नहीं। अब फायरवॉल टेक्नोलॉजी के साथ सेंचुरी प्लाई क्लब प्राइम आग से बचाए।
We are the fifth largest economy. We are the fastest growing major economy. Last year the economy was all geared up. Now is the time to set the goal in sight. Mission Superpower.
Days after a religious conversion tape sparked around, Delhi Minister Rajendra Pal Gautam has resigned from his post. Reacting to the incident, the BJP took a jibe at the Aam Aadmi Party, sparking big political fight. In a tragic incident, a building collapsed near Lahori Gate in the national capital. The incident claimed the life of a 4-year-old, leaving at least 10 people injured. Meanwhile, all the injured have been shifted to hospital for immediate medical treatment.
इसमें एक ग्राउंड फ्लोर, एक मेज़ानाइन फ्लोर और एक फर्स्ट फ्लोर, तो 2 मंजिला इमारत हम कह सकते हैं। तो इस इमारत में बारिश की वजह से पुरानी बिल्डिंग थी, काफ़ी पुरानी थी। आई कैन नॉट असर्टन कितनी पुरानी है, उसका जो है वो स्टेबिलिटी ख़राब हो गई, बिल्डिंग गिर गई। इसमें कई लोगों को चोट आई है, 10 लोग इसमें LNJP में हमने एडमिट किए हैं। उसमें से 1 पर्सन इज़ ब्रॉट डेड, तो फेटल हो गया। एक बच्ची है 4 साल की खुशी, तो उसकी इसमें जान चली गई है। अभी हम लोगों का रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशन चल रहा है। NDRF की टीम्स 5 टीमें मौके पे हैं और हम लोग उनको पूरा सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं। कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि जल्दी से जल्दी मलबा हटाया जाए, और अगर कोई और भी अगर हो सकता है दबा हुआ हो तो
Last year we were all geared up. This network is proof that everything in India is greenfield. Is it time for the Republic Network to do a spectacular intervention in global digital news media or not? It's my passion project. So that is our consecration to making India a superpower. Now India has a clear goal, Mission Superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit. Time to once again action our destiny. Focus on Mission Superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit.
Making news this morning, Prime Minister Modi is on a 3-day visit to Gujarat, where he's all set to launch a slew of projects worth about 14,000 crore rupees. Prime Minister will also address gatherings ahead of the state assembly elections that are due later this year.
The Uddhav Thackeray faction of Shiv Sena will now be known as Shiv Sena Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray, and its new party symbol will be the torch. This was announced by the Election Commission of India today. The faction led by Maharashtra Chief Minister Eknath Shinde will be called Balashahebanchi Shiv Sena.
आग को फैलने से रोकना मुश्किल है पर नामुमकिन नहीं। अब फायरवॉल टेक्नोलॉजी के साथ सेंचुरी प्लाई क्लब प्राइम आग से बचाए।
Enroll in any of Reva's wide range of courses designed to take on an evolving education and an expanding future. Reva University.
आग को फैलने से रोकना मुश्किल है, पर नामुमकिन नहीं। अब फायरवॉल टेक्नोलॉजी के साथ सेंचुरी प्लाई क्लब प्राइम आग से बचाए।
Last year, we were all geared up. This network is proof that everything in India is greenfield. Is it time for the Republic Network to do a spectacular intervention in global digital news media or not? It's my passion project. So that is our consecration to making India a superpower.
Now India has a clear goal, Mission Superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit. Time to once again action our destiny. Focus on Mission Superpower.